It's Wednesday, so it's Health Healing at Hampton Roads as we welcome to the show Gaylene Kanoyton. Good morning, Gaylene.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, let's jump into it. You are the president of the NAACP Hampton Chapter, correct?
Correct.
And let me just say, we're in this season now where voting has already started here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I think the last time I talked to you, we were still registering people to vote, and now voting has actually started here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That is early voting because our voting day is still November the 3rd. Tell me real quick, what is the importance of going out and casting your vote?
Well, first of all, let me just say this. Over 1.3 million people have cast their vote in Virginia, which is outstanding. And over 50 million have done it nationwide. So early voting is very important. The last day to early vote is this Saturday, October 31st. And, of course, you can exercise your right to vote on November 3rd. So why is this election important? Because everything is on the table. Everything is on a table that everyone needs to have. You need to have a strong economy. You need to have health care. You need to have a good education, jobs. Everything is on the table. The occupant in the current White House has really done some turning back. Some things has happened in terms of civil rights. And the NAACP, we're nonpartisan, but we're not blind. And that's what we always say. So we are really calling out what is important about this election. We don't need to lose our health care or the Obamacare. Over 25 million people have insurance because of Obamacare. Medicaid is important. Medicare is important for our elderly. We don't need to have it altered. You can always make it better, but it doesn't need to go away, especially because insurance, our health care, Obamacare, also takes care of pre-existing conditions. You can still get insurance where before you couldn't. All of your preventative care is included in your health insurance. So you can go get your colonoscopy, you can go and get your mammograms, and you can get your physicals at no charge. You couldn't do that before Obamacare. So these are all threats that's on the line to go away if people don't go out and vote. People need to go out and vote their interests, and they need to know what the issues are. Just don't vote. Know what the issues are. Know what you have to gain or lose. This election, as we say, we always say that every election is critical and important. And we decided that we're going to put that on a shelf because really this election is critical. We're going to have to think of a new term next year and a year or 4 years from now. But this year right now, our lives depend on it. You have over 225,000 people have died of COVID behind the leadership that's going on leadership in this country, including my mother. I've lost my mother due to COVID.
Wow.
And so, therefore, it is so important that everyone understand what is on the line during this election and what has been happening. This is not about popularity. This is about issues.
All right. And talking about issues that are going on, some of the things that are on the ballots when we're going to actually go vote, even if we're doing early voting, there are a couple proposed amendments for 2020 that are ballot questions. Can you enlighten us to those?
Yes, so amendment number 1 refers to redistricting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the yes, vote yes, or vote no. So let's go with vote yes, first of all. If you read it, and I've had people read it 3 or 4 times, and by the time they got to the 3rd time, they said, oh, this ain't right. Mm-hmm. It makes it seem as if it's to stop gerrymandering. There's not going to be politically influenced. Well, the Virginia State Conference have taken a no vote to vote no on it, only because of the yes vote has gerrymandering. It can be impacted by gerrymandering. If you look at the makeup of the commission on the vote yes, you have 8 legislators that can choose the other half of the members to be on this commission. We want citizens and voters should choose their legislators. Legislators should not choose their should choose their citizens. But most importantly, it should be a true commission of people and not be impacted by any legislators. If two legislators don't agree with who's on that commission, whether they're Republican or Democrat, it goes all the way. It goes to the judges, and if it goes to the judges, and as we say, we are nonpartisan, but we know that this administration has chosen a lot of judges. So
right.
We have to be very careful about reading what is going on. I mean, knowing the issues. They have websites. Fair Maps is one for Vote Yes, and then you have Fair Districts, VA.com for Vote No. But the Virginia State Conference, NAACP, are urging people to vote no.
Okay, I want to read this ballot question real quick. It says, should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to establish a redistricting commission consisting of 8 members of the General Assembly and 8 citizens of the Commonwealth that is responsible for drawing the congressional and state legislative districts that will be subsequently voted on, but not changed by the General Assembly, and enact without the governor's involvement, and to give the responsibility of drawing the districts to the Supreme Court of Virginia. If the redistricting commission fails to draw districts, or the General Assembly fails to enact districts by certain deadlines. Okay, so we were just talking about the stacking that's been going on of the Supreme Court of Virginia, the Supreme Courts, courts all over, the Supreme Court of the land, with the federal lands. We're looking at the stacking of a lot of judges that are there. So it seems like this is totally going to be unfair to the African-American communities across Virginia.
Well, if you also look at, there was a lawsuit a couple of years ago that 12 people came together to say that gerrymandering, because everything always changes from year to year, or every 4 years or 10 years or whatever the case may be. And we need to have a true commission of the people. And without the influence of legislators, because legislators can choose lobbyists to be on there, to be people. Remember, it says 8 other people. Doesn't tell you who the 8 other people are. Right. It doesn't tell you who they are. So we of course we want change, and of course we want a fair commission. But we want a commission where the people choose their legislators and not the other way around. So we are urging people to vote no.
Now, there is a second proposed constitutional amendment as well.
And that's the one for the veterans not being able to have to pay property tax on their vehicles, on a car or a truck. I think that that it's up to whatever everyone thinks about it. I mean, I think the veterans have served our country. They have, some have lost body parts, or have been affected by their health or mental health, the whole 9 yards. And so I know a lot of people have voted yes, and I personally have voted yes myself, but I leave that up to, to whatever personal preference that you may have. But I will say that the veterans have done a lot, for our country. And so I think that that's not a lot to ask for them not to pay property tax on their vehicles.
Yes, with Veterans Day being right around the corner, we have to make sure that we are looking out for our veterans who did serve. And like you said, a lot of them are coming back with PTSD and other ailments, as well as physical ailments. So that is pretty much going to be a no-brainer the way that it is there. It doesn't look like it's worded with any trickery or buffoonery up in the wording, the way that it is listed straight out. Now, also, pretty much there is a lot going on. Not just everybody looks at the presidential race that is happening now, but there are other politicians that are pretty much all across the 757 senatorial race, correct? That's on the ballots.
Oh, it's this ballot. You have your president and vice president that will be together on the ballot. It's on the ballot, and then you also have your congressional races that are on the ballot. In Hampton Roads, we have the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Whether you live in the 2nd, whether you live in the 3rd, or you live in the 4th. You can go to iwillvote.com, iwillvote.com, and you can get whatever information that you need.
IWillVote.com, right?
Yes, I will vote. You can find your precinct, where to vote, where to early vote. You can find out who's running on the ballot. I mean, you can find out everything on IWillVote.com.
Okay, and let's talk about voting during COVID-19, because COVID is not gone anywhere. It is still there. Earlier in the show, I was telling people, wear your mask, get some gloves, have hand sanitizer, be expected long lines if you're going to be standing on November the 3rd, but be prepared because COVID is still out here. Do you know what the polling places are doing because of COVID?
I think the polling places, they'll have plexiglass, with I think the elected officials will have plexiglass. And so, therefore, they'll be protected. Let me say this. Everyone should treat Election Day as a holiday. It is a holiday. And we're hoping that all the cities will make it a holiday. The state, the General Assembly they passed legislation that says that Election Day is a holiday now in November. That was Senator Louise Lucas was the chief patron for that. But not all localities are adhering to that. Last night, the city of Norfolk have passed it for it to be a holiday. The city of Virginia Beach have decided just to do it for this year and not next year. But I understand that the community activists and NAACP over there will continue to advocate for it. Hampton and Newport News have not addressed it as of yet. But it should be a holiday, because to have a holiday to vote is so important. So we should celebrate going to the polls. Look, if it's going to be a long line, bring a lawn chair. Bring some snacks, mask up, social distance. But, this is voting is the bedrock to our democracy. Our ancestors, the civil rights, the women's suffrage movements, they fought and died for us to have the right to vote. So certainly to have a holiday beyond their wildest dreams to have a holiday for voting. This is not only about it's not only about city employees being off of work. This is about a holiday in November to vote. And so when we go to the polls, let's not be afraid. If you see any voter suppression or you see anything that look awkward, you can call the NAACP. Has a hotline, which is 1-866, and it's our OUR vote, VOTE, 866-OUR vote. Put that, call them, let them know what's going on. But do not put it on social media. We don't want anyone to be afraid going to the polls. Just report it. If you see someone that might be just carrying a gun or whatever, well, they can't carry guns in governmental buildings, but they can in public buildings in some cities because they haven't passed the ordinance for it. But if you see anything that's awkward, report it to the chief that's inside the building that you see something awkward. There will be lawyers. NAACP will have lawyers all over the place, as well as other organizations, and poll monitors will be at every poll all over the place. You'll see a lot of people outside that are monitoring polls. You'll see lawyers there. And every city will have a plan to make sure that everyone is protected. But we don't want people to put all over social media that they see this, that, and the other, because we don't want anyone to be afraid to go vote.
And that is a concern, definitely, with everything that is going on with the social injustice that is happening, and the misinformation that social media definitely spreads. Because once you get it pretty much out there with social media, it doesn't have to be true. It can be false, and it can be spread. And you can have a panic when there's not a panic, because a lot of times you don't source information. Please make sure that you are sourcing information, that you're getting your news from a credible news source when you're putting it out on social media. And just matter of fact, let's just spread love on that day. Just spread voting. I voted. My voice counts, so that we can make sure that the polls remain safe.
That's exactly right. And I think you made a great point about voting together as a family.
Oh, yes.
I think you
yes.
said our conversation earlier.
Yes.
So you can go ahead and say that.
Matter of fact, I was sharing with Gaylene off before we even started that even in my family, we voted as a family pretty much in going out to the polls. It became a family affair. And that even as a child being brought up, you were taken to the polls. You actually saw, before you even were at voting age, you saw, go and pull the handles in the older days and before, all the electronics came into play, but you actually saw the process in motion. And we need to make sure that we get back to some of that this year and making sure that the family comes out to the polls. Well, Gaylene, thank you so much for coming on Health Healing and Hampton Roads. I know we got a lot to talk about, a lot of things going on in the 757. So thank you so much for coming on Health Healing and Hampton Roads. And we'll be right back with more music on Blazing Hot 91. We'll get through this together.